All right, hi everybody. This is Nephew's SIG Automation Meeting for Wednesday, September 20th. All right, let me show the agenda. I think the first thing on the agenda, share screen. First thing is just to go through the sprint status. I have that here. We have these items in progress, but I think there might be some other things in progress that are over here just still listed in to do. And I know specifically this came up today, so we want to make this in progress. So maybe let's go through the to-do list and see if there's any of these that are actually in progress. And then we'll go through the in progress ones, and we'll try to keep this as quick as we can. Previously, we had been doing this thing where we check in on each track. I don't know if we want to do that still, or just go through the board. That took a long time. We were supposed to take 2 minutes each, and we took the whole time doing it. So if anybody has any thoughts on that, just pipe up. Otherwise, I'm going to start going through the to-do items here.
Yeah, that sounds okay. Yeah, the 2 minutes, the 2 minutes thing was a failure. So, oh well.
Okay.
I mean, I suggested it, but then it didn't work out. So yeah, sure. Let's go for the board.
I mean, it's a good idea. It just doesn't.
I know it was an idea. It didn't quite work out.
So let's go through these. There's a lot of them, so we'll try and be quick. I'm not working on that right now. I don't think we're doing anything on this right now. If anybody's interested, this is just trying to rationalize our terminology. I think this is just to figure out where this should live. And
yeah, so yeah, I agree. I mean, we can keep it where it is, or we can move it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
For me, it's not urgent to discuss this. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I believe this is in progress. There's also
reporting. Helm chart. Yes, we are working. I think this is I think it's now, or at least from my perspective, it's more under the SDK. It's part of the SDK stuff, but we definitely are making progress there.
So, yeah, so what I want to do
in terms of the way this is titled, this is the just making progress and discussions. Yeah, we're doing that, so it's in progress.
So for the first pass here, let's just go quickly through and see if any of these are in progress, and then we'll go through the in progress ones.
The NF topology control is in progress, so I'm making this happen for
Alto. Design doc for it.
I thought we already have a design doc for it, but if not, then I'll make sure that gets checked.
So. Just double check it, make sure. I don't think it ever merged. There might have been some comments. So
okay.
Okay, these are all the same thing.
This is the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
because you pull the applet over. I'm not sure all the other tasks.
I don't think they do automatically, but we'll bring them over. Okay. And okay. I think this one was Victor. Is this in progress or is this still to do? Is Victor here? I don't see Victor. Okay. It's assigned, but it's not in progress as far as I can tell. Rado, is this one in progress or just underway? Is Rado here? I don't see Rado either. Okay. Liam, we assigned this to you last week, but I don't know if you've gotten started on it.
Well, I was just kind of reading into it a little bit.
Okay, so you're
around the I wouldn't say it's well, yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, we did config things and that. Yeah.
Okay, Ronak.
So this one is the one. So I discussed today with Ronak. So I gave him the outline. So this will be an important also for the run, I think. There's one question we had here, John, maybe quick. I mean, I sent something on the Slack. Do we remove SMF deployment and AMF deployment, or do we?
I saw it's on our agenda. Let's try to
okay,
just
so
get
let's
through
okay,
this one's probably not in progress yet, right? Or is it? I don't know.
I think I know how to do it, but Ronak, I think we decided with Ronak when I discussed with this morning with him to focus on the NF parameter, because radio, the run is going to be dependent on it. So we need to get this done ASAP, I think. So he did not do that. We did not discuss that yet.
Okay. Vish and Ravi and I discussed this yesterday. They're taking a look at it. This is definitely underway. Oops, it didn't move, did it? Okay. The documentation, I think Timo had talked about doing that. I don't see Timo on the call, so I don't know if there's what the status is there. The RAN piece. So is this Wim? I don't see Ronak here. Like, is this also something you're underway with him on?
No, so this will be, so there is a dependency with the API towards the radio. So because we decided, I think, to use NF deployment for everything. So that means that the RAN extension should follow that approach, right? So that's why we're focusing. But
isn't Joseph working on this?
This is Joseph. This is Joseph in my view. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, so I think based on I think we presented last time, and then there was discussion about the common NF deployment. So I think we might have to adapt to that probably.
Yes.
Maybe we can have a separate.
Okay, my question in hand is just whether it's underway or I know it's.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. Yeah, we're working on that. So it might merge into the topic that we missed. Discussing. So finally, there might not be a separate transferring. It might not be that, but yeah, we can discuss under this. Yeah,
we can discuss. Joseph, also the discussion with Ronak is recorded, so I believe it's uploaded on our thing. So we recorded the session that I had with him. So
okay.
And also Akash is you can also assign Akash to the NF parameters because they both. So it's Ronak and Akash that are working on it. But okay, we can leave Ronak for now, and then. But Akash is also involved.
Okay. Yeah, I would just ask whoever's assigned to it to sort it out who should be assigned.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Then, Tal, are these underway or?
Which ones are you looking at? Sorry.
Yes. Wiki.
Finally, yesterday we have a wiki page. So if you go to nefio.org/experimental, you'll get to it. Right now, it's empty. I didn't put anything there, but it's a placeholder. So our preamble that we would put in repos and Nefio experimental will work. So I already posted. I asked Sam to that first contribution there, and yeah, I'll wait to move our repos out. I mean, there's no urgency to it. So to move the POC repos from Nefio project to Nefio experimental, but everything is set up. Yeah.
Okay, if you can just go in and update those issues, and if they're done, close them out.
Yeah, I'll do that. Sure.
Okay. Without Victor and Rado here, we can't really answer these. What's this one? ORAN NF custom controller. Is this underway or still in the to-do bucket?
It's in progress. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I know this is a little bit tedious, but I think we need to be on top of tracking these things, and right now it's a little hard. Okay. The KRM functions are also underway. The KPT packages, all of these pieces. These are all part of that epic, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think there are KRM functions for the radio as far as, or is that wrong?
We might have to write the basic functionality, right? I mean, for using the condition SDK, I think you need to write for this deployment type, right? Unless you are changing that.
We are changing that, so that's part of the rework that we are doing. So there's not going to be an SMF deployment, so it's just NF deployment, and it will cover all the cases. So I think
So
this,
there
with
might
that
be,
work, I think this will
yeah, so
be
all
upset.
these changes in the will be part of a different user story then. The changes to common NF deployment.
I mean, it's part of our overall R1, right? I think whether it's tied to the run or not doesn't really matter, because we want to do it for core and radio, and so it's. I think it's an overall user story for R1. I think, right? So
Yeah, R2 you mean, right?
R2, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
yeah, right. I think a
Yeah.
new user story for that. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
All right.
Is this in progress here? This is here.
Multi-vendor infrastructure. We can document. We did not document, but I will ask Ronak to also document what we did. The slides, I have some slides that represent it, but we
slides,
probably need to do a design. Yeah, we can do a design. Yeah.
Does anybody have a status?
Yeah, just on 3A8, you can probably assign that to me, John Fiacre here. I have a very quick question as well. We have a README doc, and wondering where to put it also for that.
Probably in. Yeah, that's a good question.
Uh-huh.
Is it for end users or for developers?
More end user maybe. Yeah.
So then I would
We were
locate a
considering
place.
user docs, or it could live in next to the package itself. So we have the package in the example packages repo, or it could
So I
live in
think
the
there is
user
a.
docs.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a. Okay, I would think that we might want to reference from the. If you think about people starting from the docs, and I know we're going to redo all our docs, so then that would be even better. Like, if it's in the package repo, there's 100 packages and nobody's going to see it, right? So
Yeah.
if they're an issue coming from the question of what's one way I could integrate Helm, or I could, eventually for the Helm integration entirely, the SDK will have like, here's 5 different ways. I don't know, or maybe here's our recommended way, but here's 3 other ways you could do it if you need to. And you'd want at least a link from there over to the package.
So yeah, I don't want to take up time. Yeah, I don't want to take up time here, but obviously I have a learning Nephio section or episode as well to go up, which will link to the README. But yeah, we can put I'll find a space in the user guide maybe to put the README.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for indulging me in that. I'm just getting through the to-dos, and we're gonna now quickly go through, and we've talked about some of them already. Yes, Subhash.
Hey, John. So yeah, just quickly give a bit on the policy. It was not included here in sprint 1, but yeah, we have one tickets in R2. So in the context of policy, we are trying from 2 contexts: service assurance and security side. So that still we are discussing on the user stories, and possibly we'll able to converge. Maybe by next week we'll try to converge on it. But yeah, at least a POC wise, we'll deliver something in the experimental section of the Nephio. So that we'll try. Definitely we'll try. Yeah. So that is.
So do we want to? That's really helpful. Yeah. Do we want to track? This is a general question. Do we want to track these POC items as part of the sprint? Like, do we want to put them? I mean, we are for Helm, right? Maybe we need just an issue that just. Since we're not doing the 2-minute per track thing because we found it took too long, we'll make it even longer by having everybody talk about every issue. But seriously,
because John, in my view, also the Helm would fit into experimental rather than the main repo, because I think there is still we can onboard Helm with Flux, but it doesn't mean it fits into the big ecosystem that we have in place right now, right? So as such, I think we should not lose track of them, right? But that doesn't mean that eventually maybe we will adopt or not, but that's not yet, I think, decided, right?
Right. So the question is, how do we track them, right? It's effort being done by our community, by our SIG.
Yeah. So I would recommend to like the Helm to put it in experimental for now.
Right. Okay. But
Yeah,
we still can talk about it.
because there's so many
And then
different
we track it.
there's so many suggestions
track
of
it.
mechanisms. So we do want to park them into experimental, so that we'll see with community conversion one particular way of doing it.
Okay. So from a tracking point of view, can we, Subhash, can you add an issue or move the issue into sprint one as like a POC issue like we have here for Helm integration and things like that?
Yeah.
So we can make sure that we don't lose track of it. And yeah. Okay. All right.
Yep.
So rather than drilling into every single issue here, what I would ask is, there's 32 issues here. It's just too many. It's too big of a group. This is like, like traditional sprints, you have a much smaller group. I'm trying to think about the most efficient way we can do this. I mean, we can talk about OAI all in one go. Are we progressing there? Do we have any blockers? Maybe we need to go back to the basics. Like, we may not be able to have everybody talk about what they're doing, but we can at least ask in each one if there are any blockers on any of these, and whether we're on track to get them to done this sprint, which I think is probably no for all of them, because I think this sprint ends in a couple days. But that's probably the most efficient way we can do it, to try and not take the entire time for this, so that we have time to finish up these other items. Why is my machine so slow? Okay, so let's start with the OAI piece. I would ask for all of the OAI pieces, are we on track for some sort of delivery this sprint? And are there blockers that you need help with that you're not from anybody else in the group?
Yeah, for the RAN part, I think this sprint, it might not be completed. I'm still developing it. So I think to commit the code, it might take the end of next week, at least.
Okay.
So so working on the KPT packages and the custom controller, those two are currently ongoing. So yeah, hopefully.
Okay. All right. But you're set.
By the way, John, there is one question. I think it's also raised by Bala, right? Which we need to discuss is there is a repo needed for the OAI for the controller for the RAM, right? So that's straightforward. We had some discussion on packages and reorganizing them. And so OAI packages will also be there, at least for the radio. The question is, where do we store them? So we need to make a decision somewhere how to do that. And we said we would bring it up to this meeting. We can also discuss it tomorrow if we meet, but that's one topic that we need to sort out, I think, from what I understand.
So I assigned myself this issue just now.
Okay.
And I will propose something, because I have the same problem. I've got a bunch of GCP ones now. I will propose a new structure for our different packages, and then we can argue about it on that issue.
Hopefully not too long, but I think we have to sort this out now, because otherwise we'll impact people probably.
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably change it again in the next release, but at least let's make some progress.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the blocker for you, and I'll try and get some proposal today. Okay.
So this one we discussed today. So there is 3 parts here, by the way. So there is the API itself. I have a proposal, so I will check with Ronak whether we can do it. And then there is 2 other parts, so it's free 5GC we have to adopt. And
so that's what I want to ask. So I'm currently like the only maintainer for free 5GC operators. So the impact, I would like to understand the impact on that part.
So Ronak was going to do. So Ronak told me that he would do the changes, Steven.
Okay, that would be nice.
Okay?
That would be nice. Okay.
So, and for the cap function, I asked Akash to support. So, but the first thing that we have to do is the API, right? because everybody's depending on it. And there, the key question is, I don't know whether we want to discuss it right now.
I'm absolutely okay with the API. I'm just hopefully it doesn't impact.
No,
like should I schedule time if I do changes?
No, but the key question is, do we remove the SMF deployment, AMF deployment going forward, or do we create a V1 Alpha 2? But I think that's the only open point. All the rest will and retain SMF deployment. That's we need to decide on that. I think that's the only thing that's pending.
Okay. Well, let's try to get through the rest of these 30 issues in 10 minutes. And which is a tall order.
Well, it's not 30 because all the issues go under an epic, which is individual.
Exactly. And then we'll have time to discuss that issue. Okay, so this is Sagar.
Yeah, so for me, I just want to say for the blocking point is that if you remember last week, I talked about the secret management. So I shared on the thread why I need that and how I can go forward. So I didn't get your feedback or anybody else. I mean, I think we already discussed that on a very long thread. So I think I can go with the way I proposed for the moment.
So one easy way that we can do, right? If we put the secrets in the Bootstrap thing, it will automatically be installed.
Yeah, okay. No, yeah, okay. So install in the Bootstrap, the Vault, or whatever we choose. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That we
because we do today, we do a secret for the cluster for config sync. So we could add more secrets there for the time being, and at least you have them. It's probably not the right way forward, but that's an easy way to get around it, I think.
Exactly. So that's what I was proposing, that just an easy way for R2 for the moment, and then we can brainstorm a better proposal.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I think that there's different types of secrets and there'll be different solutions for them. And that may well be the solution for things that need to be a shared secret between a management and workload cluster. So, okay, so you're unblocked then. You can move forward with that.
Okay, yeah. I'll move forward. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You just put a note on the issue. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Topology controller.
I'm not blocked. So I'm going to repost the PL after updating the APIs, and then you're going to test and address your comment, which I never actually did. So I'll repost the PL soon.
Okay, sounds good.
The rest of them, there are various different degree of progress, but I don't think I'm blocked on anything at all.
Okay, excellent. Home integration, that's underway. We're not blocked there, right? We're making progress. There's different ideas. I guess we're making progress. Discussing different ideas.
Progress.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we talked about this already. Similarly, Stephen, this is
progress.
Progress is happening. And I think we just said that the OAI, all the OAI pieces are unblocked or
yeah, I think one thing is just the NF deployment. I think that part is a little more clear. I think I'll discuss with them separately, and then
okay.
Apart from that, there's no block.
Okay. All right, and Tal already said those things are underway. This is just the discussion we have to have today. Stop me if there's something that you need to discuss here. Like, these are really just meant to be reminders to make sure everybody gets their moment in the sun. All right. That's underway, like I said.
So I have this one. I have the basic working. The thing that I'm sorting out is how do I integrate it with the rest of the system. But so I have the full net. So I have multi-cluster networking up in a dynamic way. What I need to do now is integrate it in the rest of the system. So so that's basically where I'm at. So but the basic thing works basically. So I have network connectivity. I'm assuming for the time being still that there is public so the interconnectivity I'm assuming right now that is public IP or there is IP connectivity. So I will implement not reversal and stuff like that if we have to. But for now, I kept it like there's a flat IP network underneath.
Okay.
But it does the dynamic. So what I need to do is see how to integrate it in the rest of the system. So I have an ability to create dynamic topologies and links and inter-node clusters and stuff like that. So that all works. So now I have to integrate it in the rest of the system. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, and then so given that there's just a couple of days left in the sprint, I assume that this isn't going to happen. The sprint, I think it ends today or ends Friday, right? Not next week.
Yeah, we are not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to succeed to get it in.
Yeah,
so my
that's
target
right.
is next.
Most of these, like I said, most of these things are. But yeah, okay, all right. Then the one thing it would be useful to, at some point to do a presentation or a document or something.
Yes.
So we understand what's going on. Okay. I think Liam, is there anything you need here? You're just started investigating this, I think.
Yes, exactly. So I'll probably play around with the I know config sync can work off namespaces as well as root sync, so it works off just repo sync. So maybe there's something we can do there.
Yeah, there might be something we can do there. Yeah, and as you dig into it, if you want to have a conversation about it, I'm happy to do that. And like I said, I think that with that one, we also are setting ourselves up to integrate with other things like Argo or whatever. Okay. Those we talked about. Oh, so on my part, I've spent a lot of time on this because I'm actually implementing some additional controllers to synchronize some things with GCP. So, but I linked a couple of issues in there. I may actually get this done in the next couple of days. I hope so. This one is a sort of, I have a PR link there, but that's probably not going to make any more progress this sprint. We don't have Rado, OAI. This is yep.
It's a duplicate.
Yeah, we have OAI. That's what we're doing. Okay. Prepare network configuration and deployment figure for integrated RAN and core deployment. So that's part of RAN, I think, where that's unblocked. SDK, some of these seem like duplicates. Okay. And then I said, this one is blocking people. I will try and send some sort of proposal to start the discussion. I think there's one in here, but it's out of date. So I will send another proposal hopefully today. And maybe we can discuss it tomorrow. Okay, that's it. Thank you for indulging us getting through all of these issues. Is there anything we missed that's blocking somebody that we need to raise now? It's not already on our agenda, which is right here.
Yeah.
Sagar.
Yeah, I just want to mention one thing very quickly, that can we also add in R2 an issue related to the way we delete the packages? Because as you know that in R1, the deletion was not really great. It was like we have to manually remove all the package variants. So I didn't see anything there in deletion.
Okay, so let's add an issue. It's actually related to the thing Liam's looking at, but that's one way to solve it, right? So if we look at this, I know that doesn't sound like it, but this is actually related to this, which is we can put into progress, even though it's just being investigated. So this will help with deletions, but it's not the only way. The other thing one of the things we need for deletion is the fact that we never auto approve deletion. So we may want to consider that, or I would call that like improved approval controller that can handle more than just the very one simple thing it does today.
I think that will be better for for the development time, because right now when I develop on top of it and I would like to remove it, so the removal is really hard right now. So
Well, it's not that. I can give you a few commands that'll make it pretty easy, but
yeah, I have those. I use that, but it's only 95. They work 95%, but 5%, let's say some resources don't delete from the edge cluster and they stick there all the time.
That's interesting. I would like to see when that's happening.
Yeah, and I really want to know which logs I can check, because I checked so many logs, but I didn't really get anything from those logs. So I want to see which component I should check.
What you want to check?
Yeah.
You want to check the status of the root sync
Okay.
resource in the edge cluster.
Yeah.
That's what you want to check.
Okay. Okay. I'll do that next time. If it occurs, I will try to open an issue with the complete logs and try to see if it is reproducible, because it's a probability, you know, it's not really reproducible that easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna add this. I should have CC'd you on it. So yeah, Fikra.
If I could, yeah, just come in very quickly. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we found the same, and we also had to delete the branch from the, you know, using Git. It creates a deletion proposed branch in Git, and we found if
That's
you
a
delete
bug.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bug. Yeah, so I see that there's a fix there for on Porch, maybe on Kept. I saw that. Yeah, I saw the.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just on that, like I asked a very noobish question way back when, and I think you pointed me to this ticket here, John. But would it be possible to maybe Tal's suggestion that you might, like, you guys have already thought this through, and I think Tal was asking if we could discuss it more with the wider community. Just
Sure.
your
Yeah.
proposed solution, or your proposed kind of view on how to fix our use of config sync. I know it leads into what Liam is doing.
I'm just going to put this in here so people. This is related. Then let's put on tomorrow's agenda. Probably an easy way to do this. This is how I do it. All right. So
I think the original, yeah, 210, yeah, 210, yeah.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I know it's super annoying right now.
Thanks. No, that's perfect. Thanks.
Okay. So great. Then let's move on to the next item here. I think this one we just said I'll make a proposal.
Yeah. The other one, I think, the OAI run operator probably is it's a non-issue, right? So there we basically have to just create it. The one is more the packages regarding, that's I think the discussion point. But the operator one, I think I don't know who has to create those repos, but the idea is, I think the discussion was to create a similar one than what we did for Free5DC for the operators.
Yeah, Wim, I assigned that
okay.
to John and John
okay,
and yeah, thanks.
No, yeah, I didn't know you were here. Okay, so sorry.
I just joined actually. Yeah, I just joined.
Okay.
Yeah, I assigned it to John and Stephen. I'm sorry, John, if that is not appropriate, but I just assigned it to you.
No, that's fine.
That was briefly discussed. This was briefly discussed on
because I think only you. I mean, I know you two have the ability to create repos and have the permissions and stuff like that. Not that one.
So actually, there's the creation of them, but there's before we create them, I think I'm going to propose what the package structure for R2 might look like, because it's kind of a mess in R1. Like almost everything's dumped in examples, and right. Like I'm going to propose something. We can hopefully talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, but that is two things, John. That is two things.
Yeah,
right?
the package structure is one.
that one is indeed we have to sort out. But then there's another one which is basically just the operator repo, right?
Yeah.
So that we can create, I think,
So
without any discussion.
I was told on a 6.3 meeting that Joseph wants the code to be in Nefio, so at least the RAN operator. So
that's in
basically
Nefio project.
for them.
So
Right.
I pasted the issue in the chat, Jan. That's the. It's also here, but maybe if you scroll all the way down, it may be there. Otherwise,
I'm getting there.
yeah, I think probably.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I can do this today if we know exactly what we need to create.
So at least if you can create the controller repo, probably that will help.
Something like OAI dash RAN dash operator or something like that. That probably was good.
Okay, do we want so if you look at
Free5GC only has a Free5GC.
yeah,
Where the operator is. So I don't know. We don't do the same thing for OAI.
Right. So my question was, do we want an OIA repo, and you'll put multiple binaries under that same one, or do you want separate repos for separate? Is there just one right now?
For now, I think for R2 at least is starting with one operator, one controller, one binary.
So do we just want an OAI repo, or do we want an OIA operator repo? Like, what do we want?
I think OAI ran, because I think core we are not planning to put, right?
Yeah, but just put OAI, right? I mean, like we did for Free5GC. Whether we then change our mind later, we don't have to change the repo.
Let's just do that then. Yeah, let's just OAI there.
Yeah.
If Saga ever wants to push that into Nefio, we can. It would be nice to just give him a repo to park it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But also here, I mean, the fact that we have to do it for every new vendor is a bit stupid at the end of the day, right? We should basically have an operator.
Yeah,
we should
maybe
have
an operator
workload operator repo, and then put the directory for each one in there, right?
Yeah,
I was mostly using for that to have a generic
when
one.
you get all the dependencies, like it depends on how you want the management of those different things to be done.
But they can still be separate Go mod files, right? So that doesn't preclude from doing that.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Doesn't make any difference really.
Okay. So there you go.
Even to your point, I requested Sagar whether we could do that, and then probably the idea was when John agreed to it that Sagar doing it in OAI repo itself may be a better idea, because that's kind of manifests how in the real world it works. For example, if tomorrow Nokia were to do their operators, it will be in Nokia repo, but they could still use Nefio to just grab it from the Nokia's repo or Ericsson's repo or Samsung's repo and deploy the operators. So that way, it's kind of manifestation of the capability, and in that way, OAI core being in OAI core operator being in OAI repo may be a better manifestation of that ability.
I mean, it's up to Saga, right? So this is
yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go with this for now, and then we'll
optimize going forward.
That the packages you're gonna propose something, right, John?
Yeah, that's
the packages. Packages will be part of this other proposal, because there's naming conventions we want to come up with. So I'm going to propose something in this other issue here, and that will include the packages repo for that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Then.
So the next one is mine, and Ronak, but Ronak could not join. But so the discussion here is, what do we do? So basically this is the NF deployment that we are going to optimize to make it generic, right? So the question is, so I think I see two options. One is we delete SMF deployment and AMF deployment and UPF deployment of the go forward thing. and we retain everything under V1 Alpha 1 because the NF deployment CRD did not exist. Or we retain the SMF, AMF, and UPF deployment, and we bump up V1 Alpha 2.
Okay, the NF deployment doesn't exist right now?
Correct.
Why don't we just add an NF deployment V1 Alpha 1? Why would we need to get rid of the other ones?
Because we would have to, so the problem is that we are, so there is a change in parameter ref, right? That needs to bump up V1 Alpha 2 anyhow for SMF deployment.
NF deployment, the structure exists. So API,
the structure exists and that is used everywhere, right? And so we are doing two things. We are adding the NF deployment CRD, plus we are changing actually one type in the NF deployment structure, which all of them use.
We're not changing. We're not like wholesale change the NF deployment, right? It's just basically just one change of the config ref field is now different.
Yes, and the other, so I did change the type basically, but it doesn't have effect because we did not use it, to John's suggestion to not allow for namespaces to be any different than the one of the parent CRD. So that, so I changed the type a little bit to avoid that being possible. But that's not an, but there is an API change towards SMF deployment, AMF deployment, and UPF deployment if we retain them. That's why we have to bump it up.
Yeah, so this gets to like, what are our backwards compatibility guarantees? And
yes,
I mean, I don't think they exist right now. They're all alpha. It's probably a bad, I don't know.
It's not good practice to change backward compatibility. I agree, but I'm also of the opinion to make it cleaner is also a good thing.
Well, given that,
we also completely break it, right? So if the OAI operator today, for example, would be broken if the moment we obsolete we deprecate the other ones. So
yeah, but that's why we want to do the change, because it's not public yet, right? So it's not released yet. So the question is, that's why I think we want to do this change ASAP. And I think Sagar, you should chime in. If you
the change is correct, but then the discussion is when we want to bump the Alpha 2, right?
Yes, yeah. And retain the structs, right? And retain the CRDs of the SMF and AMF.
Yeah, so they stay in the API repo until we fully deprecate it. I don't know what the timeline is.
Well, we don't have any published deprecation policies, and even if we did, the alpha deprecation policy would be use it at your own risk, which means our entire product. But
like the entire
project is use at your own risk. The question is, so what I did in Porch.
You bumped up, right? You bumped up V1 Alpha 2.
Bumped up, but I did not implement. It's kind of a little bit pointless because I didn't implement conversion webhooks. Like I implemented some conversions, and then like the effort in just getting the webhooks up and running and the certificate management of between the API server and the webhook, it's such an enormous pain. I was just like, screw it, if nobody's using it yet, I'm just gonna not convert. And if they've got a problem, you don't, then I stopped serving the V1 Alpha 1 and I just said screw it. But so we could do the same thing. Of just,
we'll do the same thing.
Or we could just, it's equivalent to just not bumping things. It just means that there's zero possibility of upgrade from R1 to R2. So I don't know what folks think. I'm not hearing any strong opinions one way or the other, but anybody have a thought on this? I don't think people are.
I want to hear from Saga too, because he wrote something already. Is it okay with him that we're switching even for V1 Alpha 1?
I mean, you didn't give me any choice.
We're asking for your opinion now, so yeah, we're giving you a choice.
See, Sagar has to change no matter what, whether he likes it or not. That's the problem.
I
whether
have
it's
no
V1
choice.
Alpha 1 or not. So Sagar has to change.
So the issue will come into play when somebody has their R1 running cluster that has existing resources in it. Now, deleting right. And since the structure is changing, then they would no longer match the schema. Well, actually, where you'd run into problems is just when you try to do Go stuff. So if you were to upgrade and you were to run old Go code against those V1 Alpha 1, or against those UDP, UPF and SMF and AMF deployment resources, they would internally still be stored in etcd exactly how they were. And so all of the existing code would continue to run. The issue would just be that you couldn't run the old, you couldn't run the new Go code against those resources because they wouldn't parse. It wouldn't
So
be
if
able
we
to.
if we have the same version and we load CLD without removing it from the workload cluster, that's just an update.
Yeah, that will work. Yeah, that I tested that.
So that should work, right? So
Totally
it loads the new CLD. It's the same version, but it's updated. And then.
But wait, so your controller, if you still have the old controller, it will create an error,
the operator
right?
will be crashing.
No, the old controller is going to, because we're not actually changing an existing type. What we're doing from a Kubernetes perspective, in Go, we're changing an existing type. So what we would do is we would delete those UPF, AMF, SMF CRDs. We would no longer generate those. They would still continue to work with the existing controllers as is.
Yes, correct.
The free 5GC would be updated to deployment. And so the new free 5GC controller would never try to parse those.
Correct.
The old one will continue to parse those. If you need to transition, there's no automatic upgrade. You have to kind of delete your thing and recreate it, but you actually can run both concurrently at the same time if you really, really wanted to, which nobody's going to want to because nobody's got it in production. So I think I'm okay with.
And there was no NF deployment previously. So if you lower the NF deployment, it doesn't ruin the other guides. The new operators will be watching NF deployment, so they're not affected. It's probably okay.
It's a special case here. It's a very special case.
But end to end, it might, right? Eventually, they're all going to go to a workload cluster.
What? No, the local.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of, it's more of a question to John. So even and the management cluster, yes, those two controllers can live together and stuff. But at the end of the day, end goal is to deploy a UPF on a workload cluster. So how does that work if they?
See, the one thing that will break is on the management cluster, I think, right? Because if we upgrade the management cluster to R2, it will spit out NF deployment. So the existing controllers will never get their SMF or UPF deployment or whatsoever. The controllers will operate because they will have independent CRDs. But what will happen is that the management cluster will spit out the new thing, and the old ones are never going to be updated.
You'll never be able to update the old ones using the management cluster. You'd only be able to update the old ones manually within the Git repo.
But every workload cluster, if you have a UPF of release, let's say release 1 and an SMF of release 2, they will talk to each other. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
But the management cluster, once you upgrade to R2, the management cluster will only spit out NF deployment. So the old controllers will never do anything.
I know. Right. And the workload cluster, eventually on the workload cluster, what will happen to the free 5GC operator?
So we will have two versions, right? We have, let's call it the release 1.1 and the release 2.1. The release 1.1 will continue to work as long as you give them SMF deployments, because that's the type that they use, right? Because so NF deployment does not exist. So it's really SMF deployment, UPF deployment, and AMF deployment. So it's a separate kind, right? So they will still get it and will operate. But any new CRI, so any new thing come from the management cluster will be NF deployment. And that will only be interpreted by the release 2 free 5GC operators. right? And
Yeah.
that
So
that
that
works
actually would
fine.
only happen when with the new packages, right? Because every function is
Yes.
is tagged with an image. I believe those are those created by functions or controllers.
Wait, the image itself is the image is by the controller, right? So that comes from the controller itself.
UPF
right now.
deployment, SMF deployment, and AMF deployment, are those generated by a KRM function or by a specializer?
By a specializer.
Okay.
Wait, no,
So you have to
wait.
still-
So sorry. So the package. So sorry. The original package contains UPF deployment, and then the specializer just adds fields into it, but it starts from a UPF deployment. So we will have to upgrade the packages for sure. Yeah. So in the specializers, if you go to R2, the package will not really get specialized completely.
Right.
Because it will not recognize.
You have to run an old version of the specializers as well. If you did that, you could
Correct.
have both
Yes.
the R1 and R2 workflows working simultaneously if you really wanted to.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I'm okay with that. Like we're changing the APIs in such a way that you could still run the old code, and it would still work. And you could run the new code and it will work. But we're just not providing an automated path to go from one to the other. And I'm okay with that.
So two questions there. One is there an expectation from TSC that we upgrade from R1 to R2? That is one thing. Do we need to get the clarification there? That's one question. Or do we have the freedom to choose at this point of time because it's early cycle? The second question is, with these changes, since we are talking to the changes to the existing 3.5GC work as well, that's going to add the work in terms of a new operator and stuff. So that is given the time, do we think we can fit in that work? Those are the two questions.
So I talked to Ronak today, right? So doing that work, Ronak should answer, but he said that he is going to do it, and then Akash is going to do the specialization side. So I had a meeting today with both of them on it, and I will support them on it. So I don't think it's a problem of the work because it's not so much. It's not a lot of work at the end of the day. I think the TSC question, I was under the impression from a TSC perspective that we made it clear is that our APIs are not backward and forward compatible, that we didn't give any guarantee when we discussed the R1 scope. So,
yeah.
But okay, I
think you were pretty clear
on the operator side, we need to start routing the NF deployment to the right controller, right? So I don't know if it's a lot of work. It's not that much work.
So there is a provider field right there that basically does the check. So, and we need to give a DNS name. So there will be upf.35gc.blah.blah.blah.io, right?
Okay.
And there will be oai.blah.blah.blah.io. So there is going to be in that controller a check whether, is it my namespace? If yes, okay, I act. If not, okay, I'm done.
Okay.
And that's
anyway,
at the very top of.
I won't be doing it for R2. so
Yeah, so Ronak will will do it.
Okay.
Ravi has.
Yes, just quick question. So when we go with the generic NF deployment type, so the kind of network function will be another attribute. I mean, saying that okay, this NF deployment type, but this is a UPF, SMF.
We have
AMF,
a provider. So there is a provider field in the spec, and that provider field gives you a context of what network function this is supposed to be for, and that's the check that you have to put into your controller. It's explained in the charts in the slides. I updated that with an example in the slides, Ravi. I can point you to the slides, but they are in this document.
Any additional informations that are pertaining to just specific network functions will only be stored in that. What is it now? Child ref thing. Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah, so with this change, for example, we could build one controller that does all of SMF, UPF, AMF all together in one controller.
Okay, you mean operator, right? Yeah, it means the operator that's in the workload. Yeah.
Wait, so for me, an operator is a collection of reconcilers, right? I rather talk about a reconciler than an operator, because an operator can bundle multiple reconcilers together potentially. So an operator for me is a little bit of a wiffy-waffy term.
Okay. The other question I had was like, at what point does it get like kind of more vendor specific? Say in the sense like, okay, because everything we do at management level is kind of vendor neutral, right? So at what point do we say, okay, this is going to be a free 5GC implementation or OI implementation? Is there something to point towards
The operator
that?
itself is specifically written for free 5GC.
So there is a provider field, Ravi, right? So let me share the slides, right? So there is a provider field in the spec that will make it OAI or free 5GC or whatever specific. And then, of course, there will be parameters ref that are referring to potentially vendor specific or very specific CRDs that can be referenced. That's basically the way we do it. So there is the provider is mandatory, right?
Okay.
Actually,
So
yeah.
So is a provider populated at the management level? Is that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
In the package. So basically, in the package there will be a provider that basically refers to who is supposed to act on this.
Okay. I think
So
we didn't have that.
Out of time.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Let's move this discussion. So offline. Tal, quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I think we kind of lost the thread here a little bit about why we have operators in the first place, right? If we're just reconciling, by which we mean just like deploying the KRM packages, then we don't even need, the KRM data, we don't even need an operator, right? The point of the operator, and we have not shown this yet, we have not done this in R1, our free 5GC operator is very simple. But we want to show agency, right? We want to show ability to, for example, self-heal, self-scale, and do things that are extremely specific to the product itself, to the network function. We didn't really do that with free 5GC, and part of it is limitations of free 5GC, but also limitations of our use cases. We just didn't build scenarios that do that. So yeah, I mean, all of this operator stuff is just to place that kind of business logic code, right? That will eventually be there. So just to remind us why we're doing this, right? This is the big innovation that we're doing with Nefio, or one of the innovations, right? Our focus in R1 was on specialization and creating that initial configuration, right? But yeah, we didn't really do that work on operators quite yet. So hopefully that will come up.
Okay, we need to go. But thank you all, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bring anything else up on Slack. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
31.